What if the love you thought you lost forever suddenly walked back into your life? What if the pain you carried for years was turned upside down in one shocking moment? This is Amy's story in Season 19 of Heartland, when a familiar figure steps out of the shadows, and every Amy Fleming's life changed the day Borden was taken from her. His death left a hole in Heartland, a silence that could never be filled. For years, Amy carried the weight of grief, raising her daughter Lyndy while holding on to the memories of the man she loved. The ranch itself felt different without Ty. It wasn't just the loss of a husband, it was the loss of a partner, a dream, and a future that Amy thought was hers forever. Every day she found ways to keep moving. She poured her heart into training horses, guiding Lyndy and keeping the family together. But no matter how much she smiled, there were moments when the pain slipped through. Moments when she would stare out across the fields, imagining Ty's laughter carried in the wind. People told her she was strong, that she had survived what many could not. But Amy knew the truth. Strength doesn't mean healing. Strength often means carrying the weight, even when it feels unbearable. Life at Heartland slowly adjusted. Jack tried to be her anchor. Lou stepped in to help whenever she could, and the family learned to live around the absence. But Amy never truly let go. Every memory of Ty was still alive in her mind. The way he rode, the way he looked at her, the way he promised he would always be there. And that promise, though broken by fate, never stopped echoing in her heart. It is this unshakable bond, this love that refused to die, that sets the stage for the shocking twist. Because in Season 19, Episode 1, the impossible happens. The man Amy buried in her heart, the man she believed was gone forever, is about to return. Things she believed is put to the test. It began quietly, almost like whispers carried on the wind. At first, Amy thought it was nothing, just her heart playing cruel tricks on her. She would be working with a horse, and for a fleeting moment she swore she felt Ty's presence. The way the horse calmed under her touch, the way the air seemed still around her, it felt familiar. Too familiar, but every time she shook her head and reminded herself that Ty was gone. Memories can be haunting, and grief often paints shadows where none exist. But then little things started happening around Heartland. A letter left on the porch one morning with no name, just a single line that read, "You're stronger than you know." Amy stared at the handwriting, her heart pounding. It was almost identical to Ty's. She told herself it must be from Jack or maybe even from Georgie. But deep down, a part of her knew. This wasn't an ordinary message. This was something else, something that touched the very core of her. And then came the rider. One evening, as the sun dropped low and painted the ranch in gold, Amy caught sight of a lone figure on horseback at the far edge of the property. The rider didn't come closer. He just stopped, watching from the distance. For a moment, Amy's breath caught in her chest. The way he sat in the saddle, the shape of his shoulders, the stillness in his posture. It all reminded her of Ty. She called out, but before she could take another step, the rider turned and disappeared into the trees. That night, Amy couldn't sleep. Every sound outside seemed louder, every shadow seemed sharper. Was her mind breaking under the weight of longing? Or was someone truly reaching out from beyond her grief? She found herself replaying the rider's image again and again. The way his silhouette matched the memory burned into her soul. Was it coincidence? Or was it a sign that her world was about to change forever? For the first time in years, Amy felt something stirring inside her. Something between hope and fear. She didn't know it yet, but those whispers, those shadows, those haunting signs were not just her imagination. They were the beginning of a truth so impossible, so earth-shattering, that it would bring Heartland to its knees. The night was quiet, too quiet for Amy's restless heart. The whispers of the past and the mysterious signs had already planted a seed of unease in her. She stood alone in the barn, brushing down Spartan when she heard it. A sound so familiar it froze her in place. Footsteps. Not hurried, not heavy, but steady. A rhythm she knew better than her own heartbeat. Her hands trembled as she put the brush aside. For a moment she thought it was Jack, but these weren't the footsteps of an old man. They were lighter, quicker, purposeful. Her chest tightened. "It can't be," she whispered under her breath, yet her body moved on its own, pulling her toward the sound. The barn doors creaked open slowly, and in the dim light, a figure stood at the threshold. Amy's breath caught. The shape, the stance, even the way the man's hand lingered on the doorframe. It was as if time itself had reversed. She blinked, certain her grief had finally broken her mind. And then she heard it. His voice, soft, low, carrying her name in a way that no one else could. "Amy?" The world tilted. For years she had begged to hear that voice one more time, even in dreams, even in echoes. And now it was here, real and undeniable. She stumbled back, her eyes wide, her lips trembling as tears blurred her vision. "No, no, this isn't possible," she muttered, shaking her head in disbelief. But he stepped forward, into the light. His face was worn, older, scarred by something she couldn't yet name. Yet it was him, Ty Borden, the man she had buried in her heart. Alive, Amy's body froze, torn between running into his arms and pushing him away. Joy and fury collided inside her. "How? Why?" Her voice cracked with 1,000 questions. She could barely breathe as her hands shook, wanting to touch him, yet terrified he might vanish like a dream. Ty didn't move closer. His eyes carried sorrow, guilt, and something darker, secrets untold. He didn't explain, not yet. He only looked at her with the same quiet love that had once been their foundation. Amy's tears fell freely now, each one carrying years of pain and longing. The shock wasn't just in seeing Ty alive, it was in realizing that her world was no longer the same. Everything she thought she knew had been broken in a single heartbeat. And for Amy Fleming, nothing would ever be simple again. For a long moment, silence filled the barn. Amy's tears stained her cheeks, but her heart was louder than her sobs. Ty was here, alive, breathing, standing just a few steps away. It should have been the happiest moment of her life. Yet instead, her chest felt torn open, her emotions colliding like a storm with no end. Part of her wanted to run to him, to wrap her arms around him and never let go. This was the man she had loved with every piece of her soul. The man who had promised her forever. To have him back should have been a miracle. But miracles, Amy realized, don't come without questions. And questions can hurt as much as loss. Her joy quickly tangled with anger. Where had he been all these years? Why had he let her believe he was gone? How could he let her raise Lyndy alone, watching their daughter grow without a father? Each thought cut deeper than the last. She wanted answers, but the sight of Ty standing in front of her, eyes filled with sorrow, only made the questions heavier. Amy turned away, her hands pressed against her face as if hiding from reality. "You don't get to just walk back in," she whispered, her voice raw and breaking. "You don't get to shatter my world, leave me with pieces, and then show up as if nothing happened." Ty's silence was deafening. His presence was proof enough that something beyond Amy's understanding had happened. But without his words, without his truth, Amy felt trapped between love and betrayal. Her heart screamed for her to forgive, to hold him, to never let this moment slip away. Yet her mind demanded answers, demanded justice for the years stolen from her and from Lyndy. Every flash of memory burned her. Ty holding her hand under the stars, Ty carrying their newborn daughter, Ty whispering promises of forever. And then, the cold, empty years without him. Nights spent comforting Lyndy with stories of a father she thought she'd never know. Amy's soul was caught in a tug of war. The man she loved was alive, but so was the pain he left behind. In that moment, Amy realized the truth. Ty's return wasn't an ending to her grief. It was the beginning of a battle inside her heart. A battle between the woman who longed for love and the woman who had learned to survive without it. And as Ty finally stepped closer, his eyes pleading for a chance to explain, Amy knew one thing for certain. This was not a simple reunion. This was a reckoning. Amy's breath trembled in the silence. Ty was alive, standing in front of her, but it was clear this was no simple homecoming. The man she loved looked different. Older, burdened, as if he had walked through storms that left scars deeper than the eye could see. His face carried lines of pain, and his eyes, His eyes carried secrets. Amy wanted to believe he had come back to her, that fate had been kind enough to return what it had once stolen. But something inside her whispered that this was not kindness. This was something darker. Ty's hands shook when he finally spoke. His words were fragmented, carefully chosen, as if every syllable might reveal too much. Amy, there are things I can't explain yet. Things that kept me away. Things that kept me alive. His voice cracked with guilt. But Amy's heart burned with suspicion. What could be so powerful, so dangerous, that it would force Ty to abandon the people he loved most? Why stay silent for so many years? She thought of Lyndy, her daughter who had grown up without a father. Amy's anger simmered, but her fear was stronger now. Was Ty in danger? Or worse, had he brought danger with him? The weight of his silence was heavier than his presence. Amy searched his face for the truth, but all she found were walls. Walls built from sorrow, fear, and secrets too painful to share. Her mind raced with questions. Was he hiding from someone? Had he been forced into exile? Or was there a truth so devastating that even love couldn't make it easy to hear? The ranch itself seemed to sense the shift. The horses grew restless in their stalls. The air thickened with unease, and the night outside felt colder, darker, as if something unseen lingered just beyond the fences. Amy's instincts told her this wasn't just about love or reunion. This was about survival. And Ty's final words that night only deepened the mystery. His voice was steady yet heavy with warning. I came back because it's time, Amy. But once you know the truth, nothing will ever be the same. Her heart dropped. The questions that haunted her were no longer just about love, grief, or forgiveness. They were about the unknown, an untold story that had the power to tear apart everything Heartland stood for. For Amy, this wasn't the end of heartbreak. It was the beginning of a dangerous truth. The barn was silent, but Amy's mind roared with questions she couldn't ask fast enough. Ty's face was in front of her, real and alive. Yet his words felt like riddles carved from stone. Nothing will ever be the same. That sentence echoed in her chest like thunder. Amy stepped closer, her voice trembling. What do you mean? What happened to you, Ty? Why now? Her desperation filled the air, but Ty only lowered his eyes, as if even looking at her would betray a truth too dangerous to speak. The silence between them was unbearable. This wasn't the joyful reunion she had imagined on sleepless nights. This wasn't the miracle she had prayed for. It was something darker, sharper, like a blade cutting through the fragile hope she had allowed herself to feel. And then it happened. So quick, Amy almost missed it. A noise outside the barn, the crunch of gravel under boots, the shift of movement just beyond the door. Ty froze. His entire body stiffened, and the color drained from his face. He looked not like a husband reunited with his family, but like a man being hunted. Amy followed his eyes to the shadows stretching across the doorway. "Who's out there?" she whispered. But Ty reached for her hand, gripping it with urgency. His touch was warm, real, alive, and terrified. "Not now," he said firmly, his voice low but shaking. "Please, Amy, trust me. Just trust me. I'll explain everything, but not tonight." "They can't know I'm here yet." Her stomach dropped. "They?" The word clung to her like ice. Who was he running from? Who was watching them now, just outside the barn? The fear in Ty's eyes told her this wasn't paranoia. This was danger standing at their doorstep. Before she could say another word, Ty stepped back into the shadows, his figure disappearing into the same darkness that had stolen him years ago. Amy reached out, her voice breaking. "Ty, don't leave me again." But he was gone. The barn doors slammed shut from the wind, leaving Amy standing in the silence, heart racing, tears burning her eyes. She wasn't alone anymore, not in her grief, not in her love, and not in the mystery that now surrounded them. For the first time in years, Amy realized that Ty's return wasn't a gift. It was a warning. And as the screen fades to black, one question remains. The ranch has seen joy. It has seen heartbreak, but never anything like this. Amy Fleming stands at the edge of two worlds. The life she built without Ty, and the new uncertain path his return has forced upon her. Her heart tells her this is the miracle she prayed for, but her instincts whisper a darker truth. His presence is not just about love. It is about secrets, survival, and shadows that stretch far beyond Heartland. Amy cannot escape the questions that chase her. Why was Ty gone so long? Who was outside the barn that night watching, listening? And why does Ty's every word feel like a warning rather than a promise? For every answer she longs for, there is a new silence, a new fear. Her daughter Lyndy, innocent and full of hope, still believes in fairy tales. To her, the idea of her father being alive is the dream of a lifetime. But Amy knows reality is far more complicated. How do you explain to a child that miracles often come with a price? That sometimes the people we love the most carry the heaviest burdens? And then there is Amy herself. Her heart is torn open, raw with love, anger, and uncertainty. She wants to forgive. She wants to believe. But she cannot ignore the storm hiding behind Ty's eyes. Something happened out there in the years he was gone. Something powerful enough to break him, and dangerous enough to keep him silent. The ranch feels different now. The nights are heavier, the shadows feel longer, and every sound outside the window makes Amy wonder if Ty is truly safe, or if bringing him back has placed Heartland in more danger than ever before. But one thing is certain. The return of Ty Borden has changed everything. For Amy, for Lyndy, for the entire family. The love story that once defined Heartland has been reborn. But with it comes a new truth. This is no longer a simple tale of healing. This is a fight for answers, for trust, and for survival. And as the wind carries the echoes of that single word, Amy, the world of Heartland stands on the edge of its greatest test yet, because when the past walks back through your door, the future is never the same.